Hello everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of The Toy Shelf. I'm your host Mitch Live, and I collect action figures. The Walking Dead somehow still isn't over, and even though they've stopped manufacturing this toy line, one of my biggest and longest running toy collections is the McFarlane 5-inch Walking Dead collection. We've already done a full-length episode covering this entire toy line, minus a few alternate versions, damn you alternate versions. And at the end of that review, I said, I would almost give it the collection complete stamp if I could only find Jesus! Please, Lord, help this child find Jesus. Well, I did it. I found Jesus. See, camera B, Jesus. And that comes in the limited edition Allies 3-pack. I believe Allies in this context refers to the three camps, Alexandria, the Kingdom, and Hilltop. Because at the time, all of these characters each lived in one of the three camps. They come in this big fancy box, which, for some reason, is a foot tall to accommodate three 5-inch figures. All this top and bottom space here is completely empty. There's nothing there, which makes this box just a little bit too tall to sit on my shelf with my other figures. Collector problems, am I right? It's a nice box, it's just an obnoxiously large box. What's the deal, McFarlane Toys? I don't know how limited edition they really are, but it took me long enough to find one locally at a decent price. And Lord knows, I don't need another Rick or another Daryl. Damn you alternate versions! But again, that is the only way to get Jesus. Anyway, let's have a quick look at this box before we pop it open. As you can see in the front of the box, you can see clearly the three figures that it comes with, and above that, they have their alternate hands and accessories. You can see them holding some of their accessories on the back of the box, and below that, it shows you some other figures available in different scales. Some 10-inch and some 7-inch figures. And on the side, we have some lovely zombie artwork, as well as the Walking Dead, AMC, and McFarlane Toys logo. And on the other side, we have much of the same, and you can see some of the cast. All right, time to crack open some toys. Ooh, zombies. They're standing very well. That's off to a really good start. So I'm gonna come out of the gate with my first complaint. I can't help but notice how fat Jesus and Rick look, like around the gut area. I mean, I'm not body shaming, don't get me wrong. I don't know what Jesus is trying to smuggle under his shirt here, but it's just so bulky and awkward looking. Jesus is like one of the most agile and nimble characters in the show, so you'd expect him to look a little, I don't know, thinner. Even his face looks just a little too filled in, but other than that, the likeness looks pretty good. Maybe not as good as the other two figures in this 3-pack, but pretty good nonetheless. Again, this Rick seems a little chubbier, especially in the midsection, than all the other Ricks, and this is supposed to be like the oldest and most malnourished Rick we've ever seen. That having been said, you can really see the aging on his face and the lack of sleep under his eyes. And if you compare the likeness of this Rick to the likeness of some other Ricks, it's actually really good. And this is definitely a Rick that's seen some shit, so I dig that. Daryl also looks like Daryl. They did a good job on him. And he's wearing his iconic vest with the angel wings on the back. They now make a Daryl with every different length of hair that he's ever had on the entire show. They all come with some accessories. You can tell whose is whose by looking at the back, but I can tell just by looking at them. They each come with a handgun. Rick also comes with his little revolver, which is iconic Rick weapon. Jesus comes with an alternate pair of hands, which are formed to hold this AK-47 or machine gun of some kind, so that is also his. And this is a hunting knife, which definitely belongs to Daryl, because you can see he's got the sheath on his side here. And it fits nicely inside. These characters also have kind of the same flimsy ankles and lack of stability that most of the figures in this line has, which is unfortunate. But other than that, they look great. They're a great addition to this very nice collection. There's still some iconic characters that I wish they'd make, but with the series coming to an end, I doubt we'll ever see those. But I've still got a couple other additions to my collection to share with you here today. I decided to purchase the comic version of Penny. This is, of course, the governor's zombified daughter that he keeps locked in a closet, and he feeds her people. And they don't make a live-action Penny. Probably for good reason, but I still really wanted to add one to my collection. She comes with a fish tank full of heads. I already had a fish tank full of heads, which I think came either with the governor or with my Michonne figure, but also in the governor's room is a bunch of fish tanks full of zombified heads. He's got a whole wall of them, and while I may not have a whole wall of them, now I have two, and that's twice as good as having one. Penny also comes with a fresh bucket of zombie parts. It must be feeding time. People. I also acquired original Season 1 Police Officer Rick Grimes. This, to me, is the most iconic version of Rick Grimes from the first season. I found him for a good price at a local toy store called Retrosaurus, and I just couldn't not buy him. This now has to be one of my most cherished pieces because this is the Rick I always wanted but could never find locally for a decent price until one day I did. Finally, the last piece I'm going to share with you today is this little diorama that I made from scratch. I was going to maybe make a video on how I made it, but honestly I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out or if I was even going to like it, but better than I expected apparently. This is of course from the scene shortly after Rick wakes up for the very first time in the hospital and he's wandering down the hallways. I still have a couple more details to add, including the sign above the door that says cafeteria. But as soon as it's 100% complete, I will post pictures on my Instagram, so make sure to follow me at ToyShelfMitch. The wall, the doors, and the trim are all one piece of foam that I detailed with a knife. The door handles are made from a popsicle stick and a few toothpicks. The lock on the door was made with modeling clay, and I just grabbed some small chain from the craft store. This was my first go at making any kind of diorama like this, and I gotta say it turned out pretty good. And this brings us to the end of another episode, and really the end of an era. The Walking Dead isn't quite what it used to be, but I've still kept up this long, and I'm looking forward to that series finale. And I'm finally ready to call this 5-inch McFarlane Walking Dead collection complete. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Toy Shelf, and remember, no matter how many people or walkers you've killed, you're never too old to play with toys. See you next time! He comes with the tainted meat! Tainted meat! Tainted meat!